Hey, before you go, are you still the best kept secret in your industry? And what would be different if more people actually knew how good you are? Well, introducing In Demand, my monthly membership for coaches and consultants just like you who are ready to stop hiding and start using speaking to grow their business. You don't need more items on your to-do list. You need visibility, confidence, and clients. And that's exactly what In Demand helps you build. One member actually said this gave me the confidence to land my first paid speaking gig. If you've been thinking, someday I'll put myself out there, today is the day. Doors are now open, and you can join us for our next live training at speakandstandout.com/IND for in demand, and that link is down below. Your audience is waiting. Hello, all my Be in Demand listeners. This is Laurie-Ann, and you are listening to the podcast where I help entrepreneurs just like you leverage speaking opportunities as your best form of marketing to position you as the expert and monetize your message. Today is a special speaker breakthrough session with my friend Lizette. And if you would like to book your very own speaker breakthrough session, go to speakandstandout.com/SBS, and that link will be down below. Lizette, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
Tell me what you do.
I help the family caregivers of people living with dementia navigate it from a Christian worldview all the way from diagnosis through to when they pass away.
How long have you been doing this?
The this part of the iteration about 2 years, but as an occupational therapist over 32 years.
Oh, okay. And you have a podcast.
I
So
do.
that's another way that you have a platform that you're speaking on. And what would you like to get out of this coaching session?
Well, it can take one of two different directions. Help me either find or identify where to find Christian stages to speak on more effectively. I've been trying to get in front of churches, and you would think it would be an easy sell, and it's not necessarily. Um, or help me with the one liner.
Oh, your catchphrase?
Yes. So those are two totally different ways that this puppy can go today.
Okay, so it surprises me that you can't get into churches.
It surprises me that I cannot get into churches too. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of gatekeeping at churches. There's so many different churches in the geographic area. My ultimate goal with my business is to be not geographic specific. So if we're looking at where I live in Greenville, South Carolina, there's literally a church on every other corner, but each denomination have different gatekeepers and you have to know people, and then it's a lot of legwork. My more efficient, and I've been thinking about this for a while, primarily the people that I serve are between the ages of 40 to 65-year-old women. And so, where do I locate women Christian conferences and figure out how to access those conferences to speak at as opposed to individual churches?
Right.
So that was kind of the thought process. I have spoken at one local church. I'm speaking with another semi-local church. I'm in a very conservative denomination that does not necessarily have a lot of speaking opportunities for women. Um, so it's a barrier to entry in the sense of um, just the way it's structured. Uh, in September, I have been able to procure a speaking opportunity at a larger, different denomination. Um, geographically where I'll have a 3-hour opportunity to do a 3-hour presentation.
Okay, that's a workshop.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you have spoken at two churches or one church, and you've got another one that's sort of like on the books, and you got something in September. Anything else? Any other, like, where else have
I
you spoken?
I have done a lot of speaking, but not for Christian audiences. I have done a lot of professional presentations for physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists. I've spoken at state and national conferences as a subject matter expert, doing uh, present. We would call well seminars, right, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
um, that have CEUs attached and so on. I do a monthly free workshop that I drive organic traffic to, and then I have my podcast. So I'm very comfortable. I do a lot of local speaking um, at my BNI, and wherever I can get in front of people, I will go speak.
Yes.
Senior center, all of those kinds of things. But I think part of the part of the reason I am looking for alternative avenues is, like I said, I ultimately don't want a geographic specific business. My husband and I intend once we're finished helping my dad as a caregiver to potentially move to another country to do mission work. So I want my ultimate business to not be geographically bound, and conferences allow me more leeway and more people to access at one period in time.
Well, like they say, can't be a prophet in your own backyard.
I know, right?
So let's get you in some other yards. Okay, so first off, the first thing that comes to mind there, and I have not seen you speak, and you have to be outstanding on the stage, is there are Christian speaker bureaus.
Okay.
So that would be one thing that if I were you, that I would take a peek at, is finding those Christian speaker bureaus. I myself have attended some of those Christian women's conferences,
Mhm.
like down in the Fort Lauderdale area. They have so many of them at the ginormous churches. So that would be one thing that I would look at. And when you go and you look at them, I want you to look at dementia specific speakers. I want you to find out who's my competition, who else is speaking in this topic area. I want you to follow them, because one of the things that you can do is you can follow the leader.
Mhm.
They are speaking at the XYZ church or virtually. And this year, well, how about you could be follow up the next year?
Mhm.
Because chances are they're not going to bring back the same speaker year after year after year. That becomes very boring for the audience who attends the same conference again and again and again. Uh, so that's a couple of my ideas right there. Secondly, is to start tapping into your warm market and asking them how to get into other churches.
I
Do
have been doing that.
Okay, and
It's a very slow build. It's very, very slow. Like I do networking at my BNI, and there's several people at my BNI who continue to say that they will do it, but we never actually get the connections done. So it is coming. It's just a slow build. One of the women that I met, that I started to develop the relationship with right at the time that an opportunity opened up, she was diagnosed with cancer. And so everything was put on hold. And for obvious reasons, I'm not pushing on that door for her. She needs this time and space.
Mhm.
So there are opportunities, for sure. There are opportunities. Um, it just continues to be a very slow build.
Yes. Okay. How about Going back to all the places that you've spoken for in the past. Now, they may not be Christian based. They're going to be like the associations,
Mhm.
medical conferences, but just to continue to get you back out there
Mhm.
so that that builds up the reputation. And from there, you can start saying to people, I want to bring this message to churches.
So part of the challenge with that,
Mhm.
and I've given it a lot of thought. Um, when you are presenting in that capacity, it is CEU driven.
Mhm.
And everything that I am now speaking about has nothing to do with the medical model anymore.
Okay.
So they're two totally
So you
different.
want to, all right. So we're going to stay away from the medical, the CEU type conferences. Okay.
Yes.
So is there any way that you could reach back out to them just to reconnect with people and just have just connecting conversations and let them know this is what I'm doing? Like I am speaking in more Christian based organizations.
Hmm.
Do you happen to know any?
I can try for sure.
Okay. One of two things is going to happen. They'll either say, oh, yeah, I go to a church or I know somebody at this particular church who's in charge of like the women's group.
Hmm.
Or they're going to say, nope, sorry, don't know anybody.
Hmm.
And I don't want you to feel like the people who say, nope, sorry, I don't know anybody doesn't mean that you haven't planted a seed.
Hmm.
Okay. So I don't know how many organizations that is that you've spoken at, but even if you could just make one or two phone calls or send out emails once or twice a week, I don't want to say do it twice a day, just a couple of times a week. Like maybe you just send them out on Tuesdays.
Hmm.
I send out 2 emails and then I follow up in a couple of weeks with a phone call and then another email if to the people who like don't answer. Um, but just to have some sort of a process and let's exhaust that list of people of places that have already seen you speak.
Okay.
So that's your second idea. The third idea is the places that you do have that are coming up, we need to capitalize on them. So what is your post-speaking process?
A lot of networking. And this last one that I have coming up in September, um, I'm doing a lot. I was pre-planning it. And so part of the agreement is that they are actually going to record the whole thing
Okay, good.
professionally. Like that.
Nice.
You know,
Okay, I like that.
been
That's a
paying attention.
3-hour one, right?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
3-hour presentation. Um, so I will have video for the first time. I'll actually have some video.
Okay.
So and then afterwards, I don't have a formal process yet with them. Um, in the sense of this is now the first big one, but it's a local church and I know the leadership, so I think it'll be easy to do, to get a testimonial or to be able to include some other stuff. So currently nothing formalized, but needs to be.
Yes, I want you to get testimonials and I want you to ask them for referrals to 2 other places to speak.
Okay.
Now, that's the one that's in September. So you mentioned that you've spoken for one other church
Hmm.
and you got another one that's coming up.
I have another one that we are hopefully going to be doing.
Okay.
It's
So the
not
one,
confirmed.
all right. So the one that you already did,
Mhm.
I want you to reconnect with them and just
That's
say,
hard.
hey, I had so much fun speaking for your organization. I was wondering if you would be willing to do me a favor because did you get paid to speak?
It was an offering.
An offering. Okay. Just ask them like, I'm just wondering if you would do me a favor. One is, would you write me a testimonial? I
Mhm.
know it was
I
a little
did get
while ago. You already got one?
Mhm.
Okay. Ask them, could you refer me to two other Christian organizations that would benefit from the talk that I gave at your church?
Mhm.
Let's get two more. So each time, if you're just asking for two referrals, and let's just say like half the time people at least refer you to one person, that's still, it's a nice warm outreach. But
Mhm.
having a post-event process, something that you do not have to think about, it's just you are going through the checklist. So it's not, do I feel like asking for a testimonial? You just do it.
Mm. What is typically on your post-event follow-up?
Testimonial
Mhm.
and a referral.
Only those 2 things?
Yeah.
Well, that's
And I'll ask them, like, like for feedback, if they got any feedback from their audience. Sometimes they share with me like a text message that came in. I also will ask, especially if it's a virtual event that they was on Zoom and they were recording it. Hey, can you give me a copy?
Mhm.
Like, so I'm going to take that copy and I'll put it through some sort of transcription service that I have. And then I put it through AI and just like pull out all of my thought leadership. It's also a great way for me to continue to keep training my AI
Mhm.
on my thought leadership. It's just about having this post-event process that you just check, check. So I want you to, and this is something that I share with a lot of people, we just get over that, I feel uncomfortable asking.
Oh, I don't feel uncomfortable.
Right. Good. So you just make this checklist and this is what I got to do. I want you to have a template that you email them and you just like, edit accordingly. But also when you're there, you let them know what you're going to be doing next.
Mhm.
So at times, like when I am literally speaking, and I can do this really well with friends that have asked me to come into their communities to speak. If it's a in-person event, I literally will touch the person on the shoulder and I'll be talking about having a post-event process. And Andy doesn't know it, but I'm going to be asking her for a testimonial and referrals. And, like, she'll laugh, because I'll usually say, like, "I apologize for not telling you this a little sooner," but sometimes, like, I just tell people I send people a message a few days before I'm gonna speak. "Here's my introduction, but also know that after the event, I'm gonna be asking you for a testimonial and a copy of the video, and also to refer me to a couple of other places to speak."
Video. I gotta write that down.
So having that post-event process takes all the emotion out of things,
Yeah.
and
You
we
just
just do.
prompted you prompted my brain to start to actually think, about what I can do because I was a keynote speaker in May, with a woman who I know fairly well, and so I'm just gonna email her and say, "Hey, Linda,
Yeah.
I need referrals for a couple more places, where are your churches in your area?" Because she's also a Christian. So,
Yeah, just sometimes you just let people know, here's what I want to do. So, a friend of mine says, ask for advice and you'll get money. When you ask for money, you get advice. So, if you just start calling some of these places that you have spoken for and just like, instead of asking them for referrals, you could just take, like, this is what I'm trying to do. And these are the sort of places that I want to share my message with. You've already heard me speak. Do you have any idea how I could get onto some other stages that have my ideal people in the audience
mhm.
and let them do the thinking so that they're almost giving you advice and like, oh, as a matter of fact, I can even introduce you to Mary Smith because I know her.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Again, it's about having these connection calls,
Mhm.
especially when you're just getting started, and then being very disciplined about having a post-event process.
Okay.
And then also, who is speaking in the Christian world on this topic also?
So here's a question I was going
Yeah.
to ask you, a follow-up question. Where to find speaker bureaus? How do they work? I have no idea about that. And what if, because I've been in this space for a long time, what if I'm that first person?
Well, first we gotta look it up. And all
Well,
you
you
have to
know,
do is go to Google and just look and just type in Christian speaker bureaus.
okay, so the Christian Speaker Bureau part is easy.
Yes.
That, but there are really I don't think there's many people doing what I'm doing.
Well, let's take a look.
Well, mostly when you start to Google Christian dementia caregiving,
What'd you say?
it's gonna come up as me.
No, I just typed in Christian speaker bureaus.
Oh, okay. No, I mean what you said, follow the leader. What if you're the leader?
Well, let's first see if you're the leader.
Well, I hope there's somebody to follow, but then again, I want to be the leader.
All right, I'm just picking Christian speaker network. All reasons, choose a category.
There may be some caregiving or caregiver speakers out there, but I'm not necessarily sure whether there are going to be ones that specialize or only specialize with dementia.
Well, let's see, I'm looking at health and nutrition because there isn't. I was looking for mental health. No, I don't see. And this particular one, I do not see mental health, but let's look up health and nutrition. All right, I'm just going to click on Joseph's. Let's see what he. I don't like this website because it doesn't even tell you what he speaks on. I mean, it has like a little bio. Okay, yeah, like I have only just done one.
Mhm.
So I'll do one more. Rosemary. Rosemary. Wow. Yeah. You literally would have to go to her website. They don't even want to keep people on here. Okay, that's interesting. So they
And
may not be
are there pay to play?
in the
Are these
Christian area.
no, like the Chris these speaker bureaus? Or do you need to pay to play, or are they each one?
Chances are you're going to have to pay to be, you may have to pay
Mhm.
to be on this website. That other website that I just said, oh, I don't really like this website. I bet that website is you're paying to be listed on there, and that's as far as it goes. They're almost like helping you do some PR.
Mhm.
But typically a speaker bureau, it's like having an agent.
Mhm.
And you also have to put in a certain amount of time and be really good at your craft.
Mhm.
So one thing that I have suggested to some people who want to use a speaker bureau is to build a relationship with a speaker bureau.
So just pick one.
And then you want to find somebody who's there and build that relationship with that person and just ask, what's it going to take to have you represent me? And I've had friends who have done this, and the speaker bureau agent will actually say, you need to give this speech 100 times. Don't call me until you give this speech 100 times. So what she did was she went to Rotaries.
Mhm.
She gave this talk at Rotaries, which is another great place where you should
Mhm.
consider speaking.
Right.
I did several podcast episodes I did a whole speaker circle call on Rotaries. Have you already listened to it? You're
Mhm.
like shaking your head, like, yeah. I want you to start at Rotaries because Rotaries, yes, you're not going to get paid, but it's an audience filled with people who could actually refer you. And at the very end of your talk, you could just let them know, I love speaking for Rotaries. I love sharing this message. So if you know of any churches or other Rotaries who would benefit from hearing this message, I would love a warm introduction. You give a good speech and then you say that at the end, nobody's going to care.
Mm.
Be like, I know who you should talk to.
Okay. So when you speak at Rotaries, how long is the time you get?
Yeah, that's going to depend on the Rotary. So I was
Mm.
speaking in leadership, and there were times where I contacted a Rotary and they would say like, oh my God, we love the topic of leadership. Normally we only let speakers speak for 15 minutes, but we're going to give you 25 minutes.
Okay.
So it's going to be somewhere between 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, they have a certain format for their meetings.
Mhm.
So it's about you following the format, but they're really fun organizations. So you've already listened to that speaker circle. You might want to go back and listen to it because I do talk about, here's my process for finding the
Mhm.
right Rotaries to speak for, what weeks to say yes, and more importantly, what weeks to say no.
I remember that. What episode number was that, if you remember that?
Episode 283, which was back in January, is Public Speaking Tips Get Booked to Speak in an Unconventional Manner. Episode 289 is about associations that
I listened
have the
to that one.
executives of associations.
Mhm.
That's a great way to be speaking and getting to know people for associations. They're not necessarily going to be Christian associations, but that was in February. March, episode 301 was the 10 benefits of speaking at Rotaries.
Okay.
And I share my strategy for them.
Well, I will go back and listen to them. I'm pretty
And
sure
here's
I have.
and here's one other that I want you to listen to is episode 309. And it is using your podcast to promote you as a speaker. Now, since you already have a pardon?
That one was very recent, wasn't it?
That was last month's speaker circle.
Okay.
And I think since you already have a podcast, you need to be leveraging your podcast to get more speaking events. And that means taking people behind the scenes, what it takes to prepare for the September event, what you do afterwards, talking about your different speeches, your different presentations.
Ooh, I don't think I've listened to this one.
Yeah, so I want you to do that because I even do this like on if you go to my speaker page, which is speakandstandout.com/speaking, I have podcast episodes that are underneath each of my speaking topics. So that if somebody is thinking about like, oh, I'm interested in hiring Laurie-Ann for this particular keynote, let me go listen to what she says about it. And so I've done podcast episodes on those keynotes.
Okay.
Okay.
This was a lot.
I've given you a ton.
Thanks.
So since you've listened to these episodes before, you know that I'm going to ask you, what's one or two gold nuggets that you were walking away with?
Oh, goodness. Really just looking at the speaker bureaus. I don't understand, the speaker bureau types of stuff. So, and then the follow-up, the post-event follow-up.
Yeah.
To really, really leverage that.
Good.
And just to keep doing what I'm doing
Yes.
and figure out if I'm the follower or if I'm the leader.
That's right. I would also just start looking up, like, is there anybody who is already speaking in this industry for Christians? And follow them. Like you set up like some sort of a Google alert so that you get notified whenever there's like some sort of news on them. But they might also be posting on their website where they're speaking. And you just take mental notes and like, hey, you know what? They're going to be speaking at this particular conference in early June or July. I'm going to make sure that in September, I reach out to that organization.
So hopefully I am the category of one.
Good. All right, Lizette, where can people find you, learn from you, follow you?
The best place to find me is going to be the podcast. It's called Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians. And then I have a Facebook group also called Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians.
Thank you so much. And if you would like to book your very own speaker breakthrough sessions, stick around. Are you tired of hearing crickets on social media? Wondering where to get seen by the right people? Or frustrated with the growth of your business? Then the Speaker Breakthrough Session is just for you. During this free 20-minute discovery call, I'll help you recognize where you're leaving money and opportunity on the table. You'll walk away with tips and a strategy to leverage speaking opportunities to get positioned as the expert, visible to the right people, and monetize your expertise. Book your call at speakandstandout.com/SBS for Speaker Breakthrough Session.